Here's a hot take. I do not hate this show. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another edition of WrestleMania Review Series, and we are done with 80s and 90s wrestling. We are moving on to the millennium, and we are looking at WrestleMania 2000, WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania Y2K. This was around a time where everything was 2000. Even South Park mocked 2000 by putting the number 2000 at the end of every single one of their episodes. This was to me a show that is not the best, but I found myself thoroughly entertained by it. Funny enough, 2000 is considered one of the greatest years of professional wrestling history. More particularly WWF. WCW was just ouch. But I thoroughly enjoyed this for the most part. It wasn't like the greatest. Like, I think Backlash, that was the WrestleMania. Honestly, like, if you look at Backlash 2000, if you watch that and just put WrestleMania, that's your WrestleMania, really. Um, but that's not go to say that this wasn't really bad. It wasn't the greatest. I do wish that we had some singles matches here in the card, but we got what we got, and I was thoroughly entertained. This was the debut of Lillian Garcia. She did America the Beautiful. There was a lot going on this show. There was supposed to be the theme song was supposed to be California Love by Tupac and Dre, but the song's too expensive, so they made their own version of that. Um, there was a lot that I will admit was bad on this show, but for the most part, I can't see myself like hating it. And then the main event is very divisive, which I totally understand, but we'll get to it when we'll get to it. So, anyways, let's just start talking about this show. Now, the first match was not good. It was Big Boss Man and Bull Buchanan versus The Godfather and D'Lo Brown. The only thing that was popular about this was that we got Ice-T on the corner of D'Lo and The Godfather. Their outfits were also very odd, to say the least. They, I don't know, they really went all out with the Godfather look, and D'Lo Brown was kind of on the side. Bull Buchanan was never a star. I'm sorry. No disrespect to him, but I'm sorry. You're just not a star. Big Boss Man, who last year fought The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell and got hung. Um, this was just, yeah, this was not good. I didn't like it at all. Definitely one of the worst matches of the show. So I can't really fault it. So yeah, I'm gonna just say that this was bad. Big Boss Man and Bull Buchanan win. Moving on. Then we get the Hardcore Championship Battle Royal between. Let me get all the names down. It was Taz, Viscera, Funaki, Rodney, Joey Abs, Thrasher, Pete Gas, Taz, Crash Holly, and Hardcore Holly. The only real famous thing about this was that whether or not Crash Harley and Hardcore Holly were gonna clash, eventually they did, and Hardcore Holly gets his moment. Good for him. I would have given it to Taz. He was like the new toy. Like, this was like literally he put Kurt Angle in the chokehold. Granted, he got in trouble. I think this is why he didn't win. I think they were saying that he was way too dangerous. He was too injury prone. I don't know what they were saying about him, but for obvious reasons, they didn't give it to him. So, yeah, that's what happened to this match. So, it was enjoyable. I was very entertained. Just go balls to the walls crazy. It was very entertaining. So yeah, I can't really fault it for that. TNA, not Impact. Test and Albert beating Al Snow and Steve Blackman, aka Head Cheese. They were with a guy named Chester McCheeserton. This was just goofy and really dumb. Funny enough, the person that got popular out of this entire match was nobody in the match. It was actually a manager on the corner of Test and Albert, that being Trish Stratus. She eventually becomes the star of this entire thing. One, she was hot and she was like new, and we were really enjoying what Trish can do, and what she looked like. um, but Test and Albert, I actually really enjoyed this tag team. It kind of worked. Like they admitted that they were jobbers, but they had fun. Um, so it was okay. The whole cheese thing was stupid. That's really the only thing I can really hate on about this. But for what it was, let's just move on. This was another bad match. Now, I already talked about all the bad matches on the show. Now let's move on to the best match on the show. The Dudley Boys versus the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian in a triangle ladder match for the WWF Tag Team Championships. And this match was insane. This was the precursor to TLC. It was just a ladder match, but they worked with what they got, and then they realized like we can do more than this. Let's use tables. Let's use chairs. Like the Dudley Boys were all about tables. So in even in the commentary, like, wait, what are they doing? This is a ladder match, not a tables match. And they use ladder. My spot of the night was when Jeff Hardy does a swanton bomb from a tall ass ladder onto Bubba Ray. Um, there was a part of the match where they put a table on top of two ladders, and then whoever climbed it was gonna grab it. Eventually, it ended up becoming Edge and Christian. This was just a really fun match. It was now funny enough. Just a fun fact about me. This is my least favorite out of the Edge, Dudleys, and Hardys match, but that was just because this was just the appetizer. We eventually get even greater matches out of these guys, and this basically saved the tag team division. At this point, we were tired of seeing New Age Outlaws and DX just bury the entire talent. We were done with the Ministry of Darkness, all these goofy gimmicks. It got too silly. We needed some real tag teams, like with actual tag team skills. And this was like the start. If anything, the real precursor was that match in No Mercy between Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys in a ladder match. If you guys know what I'm talking about, in 1999, that was probably the precursor to this. And then the Dudley Boys got signed, and then we ended up getting all these amazing stuff. Yeah, the tag team division was really dying, and this was the savior. Now, it wasn't a traditional tag team match, it was a ladder match, but, you know, when you evolve, you basically get this, and it was brilliantly put together, and I really enjoyed this. Hands down, the match of the night. Then we get The Cat versus Terry Runnels in a cat fight with special guest referee, hello ladies, Val Venus. I thought this was a bad match. We can all agree this was a bad match, but it was infamous for Terry Runnels getting her pants ripped, and we see her. This was a different time for the women. Um, so, I mean, for what it was good. As a guy, I was entertained by this, so I can't really fight it. I will say this kind of sucked that this was the only singles match in the entire show. Everything else was tag teams, triple threats, fatal four ways. I do wish, like I said, I do wish we had more singles matches, and kind of sucks that this is the only one. That's the only thing that I will really complain about this. Again, I'm not gonna give it a rating. It's what it was, for what it was. Yes, the wrestling wasn't great, but for entertainment aspects, you can't really get mad. A six-person tag team match with Too Cool, Scotty Too Hottie, and Grandmaster Sexay and China versus the Radicals, Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero. A lot of people didn't like this match. I really liked this match. Well, not really. It wasn't like a masterpiece or anything, but I was entertained. I was really looking forward to seeing Eddie Guerrero and China interact in this match, and it was well put together. Like the whole "I'm your papi" kind of thing. It was just, I love that story, and that's what made it this very entertaining. Granted, Rikishi ended up doing something else, which I wish they didn't do. But I really enjoy this. I can't really hate this too much. For what entertainment aspects, it was fun, and sometimes you just need that. We just need fun. You know, not everything has to be a 5-star match. And then we were still getting to know who the Radicals were. So that's why, to me, I can't really get mad about this match. I really cannot. And then China looking badass as all ever. She was already an intercontinental champion up to this point, so can't really get mad. Eventually, China and Eddie formed together, but this was the precursor to that. So honestly, I will say that this show basically set up the rest of the year. Maybe that's why I'm a lot nicer to it than most people. But I do understand for the people who don't like this show. On to a very divisive match. Um, it was a two-fall triple threat match. Kurt Angle, the European and Intercontinental Champion, versus Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. Now, this match um was divisive because there was just so many rules involved, and the fact that like I think they went the right way with this match. They clearly saw that Kurt Angle was going to be a world champion later down in the year, but they didn't want him to look terrible, despite him already looking bad against Taz. They wanted him to look strong, but also put him with two workhorses up to this point. Former WCW champion Chris Benoit, if you remembered, he won in the very beginning of January of this year, and then he moved on to WWF. Um, Not that long after. Jericho was already over. He had great matches with China. Had that amazing promo with The Rock in his debut. This was just a great way to just show off different talents. The whole two fall finish, I could see people being conflicted on that. I I came to appreciate it and enjoy it. I do wish it. Personally, I would have done this. I would have done Kurt Angle and Rikishi since he was already getting over. He had the most eliminations at the Rumble. And then I would have done Jericho and Benoit, a nostalgia match of, two people who had classics in WCW and in Japan wrestling. I don't know if it was New Japan at the time, but they were there and they had classics. That's what I would have done. But anyways, I can't really get mad at this match. I was thoroughly entertained. The wrestling was there. I do like the idea of like let's take the belt off Kurt Angle, but let's not get him pinned. Like let's have Benoit pin Jericho, and then let's have Jericho pin Benoit. Kurt Angle was there. Luckily, he didn't get injured like he did in SummerSlam. But I I really enjoyed this. This was a really good match. This for me my second favorite match of the night. Let's move on to a tag team match. This was easily just like a rest hold match, like a bathroom break type of match where it is between a good match and the main event. It was Kane and Rikishi versus DX, Road Dogg, and X Pac. Now, this really should have really only been Kane versus X Pac. So you could have had shenanigans with DX, maybe have Too Cool help out Kane at the end, something. Um, but to me, this was not good. It was only 4 minutes. The only thing I truly remembered out of this match was honestly the beginning where the San Diego Chicken comes in to interfere. We think it's P Rose again, but then P Rose comes from the back. Kane tombstones Pete Rose yet again, and this was the end of the Pete Rose Kane trilogy. I'm shocked they didn't have a match. Uh, Granted, it would have been bad, but anyways, we get to the match. Kane and Rikishi. There was a lot of interference going on. The whole DX splitting up, coming back together got annoying real quick, and it just didn't feel the same. I will say this: I do like the New Age Outlaws, but X Pac and Road Dogg actually had really good tag team chemistry. I don't know what is it about it. Maybe um, with Billy Gunn being like the more heavyweight strongman, and then we got two kind of like super kick high flyer types. I don't know. It kind of worked. It was essentially the Young Bucks before the Young Bucks, if you think about it. Anyways, the also was really entertaining was Too Cool at the end having a dance break, and then Kane whether or not he joined. Paul Bearer was trying to dance with them, and it was cool. Also, Paul Bearer in red kind of looked cool. I don't know what is it about Paul Bearer. He looked good in red. I don't know. It was just me. On to the main event. A McMahon in every corner. Triple H, The Rock, Mick Foley, and Big Show in a fatal four-way elimination match for the WWF Championship with a McMahon in every corner. Triple H had Stephanie, The Rock had Vince, Mick Foley had Linda, and Big Show had Shane. Um, It was very obvious from the very beginning that Big Show made no sense in this match, though, so they got rid of him very quick, and it basically became a triple threat match. And also, it was kind of funny because really the star of the Shane side was Shane himself. Yeah, you could say that, like, yeah, the McMahons took over most of the match. They really didn't. They were on the side, yes, but it was still very entertaining to watch what the actual wrestlers in the match played a part in, especially in the end, which was divisive. I'll get to that when I get to it. But anyways, Shane being the first one out, it kind of worked out in the end, especially worked out in next year's WrestleMania with the outcome of that. Um, for the most part, it was Triple H versus the Rock and Sock Connection who reunited, but then egos get in the way and both men won the title. Um, there was a very brutal spot, and this was a botch. You could tell. It was a really awful botch, but basically Triple H has the Rock in the announce table. Mick Foley is about to dive, but he misses, hits himself in the eye, onto the side of the table, and then Triple H just jumps on top of the Rock and breaks the announce table. That was a very ugly botch, and man, Mick Foley, man, this guy took bumps. This guy took some serious bumps. Um, there was a back and forth with Mick Foley and Triple H, who at this point had two classic matches, a street fight and a Hell in a Cell match, two of my favorite matches of all time. They beat the crap out of each other here for a while, and then eventually Triple H gets the advantage and he pins Mick Foley. But it's not the end for Mick Foley. He comes back with like a stick with barbed wire. He knocks Triple H with it. He's bleeding like crazy. And then the rest of the match is The Rock and Triple H, which is what really should have been the match, but I understand in hindsight why they did it this way. I heard that the rumor was that Stone Cold wasn't going to be available for WrestleMania, so that's why they waited until Backlash to give us that singles match. So for that, I do understand. Um, if Stone Cold was available in a heartbeat, I would have done Triple H and The Rock. And like I said, this was entertaining when it came down to The Rock and Triple H. And then there was a part where Shane McMahon comes back and he takes out Stephanie and Vince. I swear, Linda McMahon had nothing to do with this match, really. She was just kind of like, come on, Foley, let's do it. It was just for fun to have every McMahon in every corner. It was kind of cool to see some people do that. Um, Maybe not do it at WrestleMania, but some people would say that having a McMahon in every corner in WrestleMania was not the best selling point, but I don't know. Let's just have fun. Let's get creative, and it did lead to better stuff down the road. Triple H and The Rock have their thing. Vince, takes down Shane. Then, the biggest twist of all, The Rock gets betrayed by Vince McMahon, which is not really a big twist. We all know McMahon is the real bad guy of this whole story. The only thing I didn't like is that after Vince betrays The Rock, we go to the pinfall 1-2 kick out. I really wish Vince betrayed The Rock, Triple H hits the pedigree, and then that's the end of the match. Instead, it just kept going for a lot longer, and it just became essentially a 3-on-1 handicap match. Um, Eventually, the Triple H gets the victory, the first heel to walk out as champion in WrestleMania history. But the show ended with The Rock taking down Triple H, taking down Stephanie, taking down Vince, and then he stands tall, a precursor to WrestleMania 27. I thought the main event was solid, and I thought the show overall was solid. Again, really the only great match that people are going to go back and watch is the Triangle Ladder match. Again, Benoit, Jericho, and Angle was divisive, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good match. And then the Fatal 4-Way was good for what it was, so I was entertained, and I was very happy with it. There's many reasons why that Fatal 4-Way happened, even though it should have been Triple H and The Rock, but, we got what we got. The rumor was, like I said, Stone Cold wasn't going to be there. They always wanted Mick Foley to main event at WrestleMania. He was supposed to do it last year, but Shawn Michaels said no, it should be one-on-one, which, in hindsight, look at this now. It made sense why they picked the Big Show, but he was really the odd one out of this entire thing. Because, the Royal Rumble spot where Brock's feet hit the ground first instead of the Big Show, and then he's a giant, so you need a big guy to make it look like, oh, there's no way they're gonna beat him. But in the beginning, the three men fight him off first, which was smart booking, if you ask me. Anyways, this show was thoroughly enjoyable for me. I understand people who do not like this show. There's a lot of bad. I didn't like Bossman. I didn't like TNA versus the Cheesemen. Um, Kane and Rikishi versus DX. I would have done, like I said, I would have done Kane and X Pac. But I can't really fault this show. I really enjoyed it. So, I'm gonna give it a C. I'm gonna give it a C. I think it's a C is a solid rating for this show. Eventually, we do, like I said, we do get better shows in 2000 for the WWF. SummerSlam was pretty solid. There was a lot of really enjoyable stuff, and then Royal Rumble and No Way Out were just banger shows. I'm done with WrestleMania 2000s. On to arguably one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time, WrestleMania 17.